Hi, my name is Jim Bennett, and for the next few moments I will show you how easy it is to install a stainless steel wire balustrade. First, let's examine the components you will need. Saddles as the anchor points, thimbles for the wire to wrap around, ferrules for hand crimping the wire in place, the mini jaw-and-jaw rigging screw, the coach screw eye as the other possible anchor point, and lastly, the split grommets if desired. The wire we will use will be of 7x7 or 7x19 construction. First of all, you will need to attach the saddles to the post. To do so, make up a simple template using a scrap piece of board, Next, you will need to make the correct spacings for your wires. Current BCA regulations require that your wires should be spaced at 80mm centres. Here you see the person marking them out. After marking the 80mm centres, you will need to place the saddles ready for drilling them out. In this case, the hole centres are 20mm either side of the wire centres. Once you have completed the drilling, you'll be then ready for attaching your template onto your anchor post. Next, mark the centre of your post. A handy tip is to mark that distance on a tri-square. Once you have the centre of the post, you will be ready to clamp on your template. Once it is clamped in position, you will be ready for drilling your holes for future attachment of the saddles. The holes that are currently being drilled are the ones which the saddles will screw into. Note 20mm either side of the centre line, ready for screwing the saddles onto the anchor post. It is a good idea to attach the saddles with only one screw at this stage, as they will need to be loose to allow the wire to be fed into them later. Once you have done all your saddles, you are ready to move on, placing the wires through the intermediate post. Before attaching the coach screw anchor points, you will need to make up a template for drilling. The same template can be used for marking out and drilling your intermediate posts. First, start with a suitable piece of scrap and mark out the centre distances the same as you would if you're used for saddle anchor points. In this case, it will again be 80mm centres. Mark the middle of the 80mm spacing line. In this case, a tri-square is being used to transfer the measurement. Once you have marked all the centres, you are ready for drilling. Drill through the centres and then measure your anchor post for attaching the drilling template. Again, the person is checking the centre of the post prior to attaching the template. Having clamped your drilling template onto your anchor post, pre-drill 5mm holes into the post for the coach screw eyes to screw in. Next, screw in all the coach screw eyes by hand and then tighten, leaving the eye in a vertical position. A screwdriver or similar can be used for final tensioning. As before, mark the centre of your post. Onto this you are going to be clamping your intermediate template, the same as you made up for marking the spacings on your anchor points. It's important that it is positioned on the centre of your intermediate post. A handy tip is to mark that distance on a tri-square. Once you have transferred this distance onto your post, you'll be ready for attaching your drilling template. The template for drilling will then be securely clamped onto this post. A handy tip is to drill halfway through the post and then to relocate the template on the other side of the intermediate post and drill through. This will ensure that the wires both enter and exit square to the post. Here we see the person measuring the inside to inside distance required to cut the wires. For system E, we generally recommend that you deduct 70 millimeters from the inside to inside measurement. This is the length that you cut your wire, but it's always a good idea to trial one first. Using a pair of parrot beak wire cutters, cut your wire to this length. Next, feed the wires through your intermediate posts. Once you have done this, you'll be ready for putting the thimbles and ferrules on the end of your wires. First, mark your wire with a permanent marker 85 millimeters from the end. Next, slide a swage ferrule over the wire and loop the wire back through the swage ferrule. Place a thimble inside the loop and squeeze up the ferrule. You will notice the black texture mark showing. Place the swage ferrule between the jaws of the hand crimper and squeeze the handles together. Attaching the looped swage end onto the saddle is easy. Pass it through the saddle, then screw the other end of the saddle to the anchor post. Here we see the mini jaw and jaw rigging screw tensioner. Start by winding the jaws out approximately 20 millimeters from each end. Next, remove the spring wire clips and the clevis pin from each end. Place the swage loop into the jaw and secure with the clevis pin and spring wire clip. The other jaw can now be attached to the coach screw eye using the clevis pin and spring wire clip. Your wire can now be tightened by rotating the mini rigging screw body. Final tensioning can be achieved by use of a rigging screw spanner. Once the wire is suitably tensioned, the rigging screw can be fixed in position by tightening the lock nuts. If you wish to insert grommets into your intermediate post, you will need a 9mm hole. Open the grommet with a suitable implement. In this case we're using a biro. Hold it to the wire, remove the biro and slide the grommet along the wire and plug it into the post. Remember, AAA Metal Suppliers for all your balustrading needs.